Bullies thought they picked the right target when the new black girl stayed quiet, but they never expected what came next. What will happen when she finally breaks her silence? Let us know in the comments section below. She didn't flinch when the first paper ball hit the back of her head. Lexi Hudgens stared forward, the crumpled wad resting near her sneakered foot under the desk. A slow breath in, a slower breath out. Her pencil never stopped moving, gliding through the math worksheet as if nothing had happened. That made them bolder. 2 rows back, Jason Cutter chuckled under his breath. He leaned to the side, gave his boy Rico a subtle nod, and mouthed, "She ain't gonna say nothing." Rico bit his lip, pulled back his arm, and lobbed another paper ball, this time aimed straight at Lexi's shoulder. It bounced off. Again, no reaction. She didn't turn around. Mr. Campbell kept teaching, oblivious, or pretending to be. That was usually how it went around here. Teachers at North Bayridge High had this gift for not seeing what they didn't want to deal with. But Lexi wasn't pretending. She saw all of it. Every sideways glance, every stifled laugh, every pair of eyes that lit up when they thought they'd found their newest chew toy. She just didn't care. Or maybe she did, but not in the way they wanted. The lunchroom smelled like old grease and microwave cheese. Lexi walked in like a ghost, moving down the side wall toward the furthest table in the back. Her tray was practically empty, just a juice box and a half-eaten peanut butter sandwich she'd brought from home. She didn't look at anyone, didn't try to sit anywhere near the packs of girls comparing nails or the guys tossing fries across tables. The lunchroom was a jungle, and she wasn't here to join the tribe. She was here to survive it. Across the room, Jason Cutter spotted her and smirked like a lion catching scent of something small and new. He was built like a middle-aged man trapped in a 17-year-old's body, overconfident, aggressive, and always flanked by at least 2 guys who laughed at whatever he said, whether it was funny or not. Rico and Matt followed his gaze. "Man, she always sittin' by herself," Rico said, laughing. "She don't even talk," Matt added. Jason grinned. "Maybe she'll talk if I give her something to say." They got up. Lexi had her earbuds in, not connected to anything. No sound. Just plugged in, shield. She could feel them coming before they even got close. You could always feel that change in the air when the room's attention shifts. That sudden quiet, that prickling stillness like everyone's waiting to see what happens next. Jason stopped at her table, standing directly across from her, his voice carried just enough for others to hear. "Yo," he said, "you deaf or just rude?" Lexi looked up. 1 second. 2. Then back down to her sandwich. That did it. Jason's voice got louder. "I'm talking to you, girl. You too good to speak to people?" She took another bite, calm, slow. He grabbed her tray and footed it. Peanut butter and paper napkins flew across the table and hit the floor like a slap. A few gasps echoed, a laugh or two. But Lexi? She just stood up, silent, eyes locked on his, and smiled. Not a big smile, not a fake one, just the kind of smile that told you something you didn't understand, but should be afraid of. Jason stepped back, just half a foot. "You crazy or something?" Still no words, just that look, like she knew something they didn't. After school, the parking lot emptied fast. Lexi walked the long way home. She didn't take the bus, didn't wait in front with the other kids. She walked with her hood up and her backpack slung low. Behind her, she heard voices. "Yo, Lexi." She didn't turn. Footsteps followed, fast ones. "Hey!" Jason's voice this time, loud, angry. She stopped. Turned, and there they were. Jason, Rico, and Matt, all 3 blocking the sidewalk behind her, smirking like this was some kind of after-school movie scene. "What's wrong with you?" Jason asked. "You think you better than us?" Lexi tilted her head. Still no words. Jason pushed her shoulder, hard. "Say something." Lexi stumbled one step back, then looked up, and said her first words since arriving at North Bayridge. "You really want to do this?" Jason blinked. What? You want to find out what happens next?" Something in her voice stopped them. It was low, controlled, not scared, not angry, just Matt was the first to speak. Man, she trying to act tough. Lexi dropped her backpack. Jason stepped forward, smirking, arms out. "What, you gonna fight us all by yourself?" She didn't answer, and she didn't need to. The crack of her fist connecting with his chest was like a whip. Jason stumbled back, air knocked from his lungs. Rico charged, sloppy, wild, and caught a knee to the ribs that folded him sideways. Matt hesitated, made a choice, and ran. Lexi didn't chase him, didn't gloat. She stood over Jason and Rico, breathing hard, hair falling over one eye. They weren't laughing now. She picked up her backpack and walked away. No one saw her smile this time. That night, Thea Hudgens sat on the edge of the bed, rubbing her feet after a double shift at the clinic. Lexi came in, dropped her bag by the door, and went straight for the fridge. "You eat today?" Thea asked. Lexi nodded. Thea watched her for a moment, her tired eyes narrowing. "You all right?" Another nod. But there was a flicker behind it, a crack in the cool. "Lex, I know this move wasn't easy, but I need you to tell me if something's wrong, okay? You don't gotta handle everything on your own." Lexi opened a soda and sat down across from her mother. For a moment she looked like she might say something. Then, she didn't. Just sipped the soda and turned on the TV. Thea didn't push. She knew her daughter. Knew that look. And knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The next morning, the hallway felt different. Not quieter, just watchful. Students didn't move any slower, but they looked twice. A few paused their conversations when Lexi passed. Eyes darted away, lips pressed into quick whispers. Even the ones who didn't witness the fight could feel something had shifted. Word traveled fast in high school. Truth moved like molasses, but rumors? They ran like wildfire. Lexi didn't walk faster. Didn't hide. She moved like she always did. Head up, earbuds in, step steady. But now people noticed her, and more than that, they felt her. It was like the air around her had weight now. She went straight to her locker, opened it, and started swapping out her books. A girl 2 lockers down peeked over, then whispered something to her friend. The friend looked too, then quickly looked away. It didn't bother Lexi. Not in the way they wanted it to. They weren't laughing anymore. That was the difference. Behind her, a voice piped up. "Hey, Lexi." Right? She turned. It was a boy, skinny, hoodie half-zipped, eyes uncertain. He had the look of someone who stayed out of the way on purpose. His hands were shoved into his pockets like he was keeping something from falling out. Lexi didn't respond, just waited. "I'm D. Sean," he said. "We're in the same history class." Still no response. He shifted. "I just wanted to say, that was wild, what you did, with Cutter and them." Lexi raised one brow. Sean held up both hands. "I'm not trying to start anything, just saying, they had it coming." A silence hung between them. Then finally she spoke. "You watch?" He nodded slowly. "Yeah. I was out back. Didn't think you were actually gonna..." He stopped himself. "Never mind, just respect." He gave her a nod, turned and walked off, melting back into the crowd, like he was never there. Lexi watched him go, her face unreadable, but her eyes followed him longer than she meant to. Upstairs, the teacher was already halfway through attendance by the time Lexi entered the classroom. She slipped into the last open seat at the back. Heads turned, a few voices dropped to whispers. Jason Cutter wasn't there. Rico wasn't either. Matt sat at his desk looking like he hadn't slept, tapping one leg under the table nonstop. Mr. Barnes didn't mention them. Teachers never did unless someone asked. No one asked. Lexi opened her notebook. In the front row, Megan Saunders sat stiffly. Her blonde ponytail was tied tight, her fingers tapping her phone even though it was face down on her desk. She looked back once, just for a second, then forward again, her lips pressed together. During class, Megan didn't volunteer like she usually did, didn't giggle with the other girls, just sat still like she was holding her breath. At the end of the period, Lexi rose from her seat to leave. Lexi. She turned. Megan stood by the door, waiting. Her tone was low, uncertain. You okay? Lexi blinked. Why wouldn't I be? Megan looked around like someone might be watching. Just look. Jason's not the type to let stuff go, that's all I'm saying. Lexi met her eyes. And what are you? Megan hesitated, trying not to be like him. That hung in the air for a second too long. Lexi left without another word. After school, Lexi didn't head straight home. She walked past the corner store, turned down 3 side streets, and ended up in the small park near the library. It was mostly empty, just a couple of kids on the swings and an older man feeding pigeons. She dropped her bag under the bench and sat, elbows on knees, eyes watching the sidewalk across the street. This had always been her way, not hiding, just breathing, cooling the heat that built up when things started to burn too close. The fight hadn't scared her. What came after always did. Back in Memphis, it had been the same. The wrong words, the wrong stare, one cracked knuckle, and suddenly everyone acted like she was dangerous. Even the kids who used to laugh with her in the cafeteria wouldn't sit next to her after that first fight. The label stuck to her skin like tar. The sound of a soda can popping open broke her thoughts. Deshawn. He stood a few feet away, holding 2 cans. Lexi looked at him, and he shrugged, offering one up like a peace treaty. I figured you might be here. She took the can but didn't open it. You always follow people? Nah, just saw you walking this way yesterday, too. They sat in silence for a bit. Then he added, You know Cutter's dad is rich, right? Like, owns half the auto shops in town? He's not used to people making him look dumb. Lexi stared straight ahead. Deshawn leaned back. People think you're scary now. They should be, she said, finally cracking open the soda. He laughed. Yeah, but not for the reason they think. That made her glance at him, curious. Just a little. You ever think about, dialing it back? Lexi turned her head slowly. You ever think about not asking dumb questions? He smirked. Touché. More silence. Not heavy. Just there. Then Lexi said, Back home, I didn't start fights either, but people only respect loud when it comes with bruises. Deshawn nodded slowly. You're not like them, she said. I try not to be. Lexi watched the pigeons scatter as a car honked a block away. I don't like attention, she said, but I'm not going to run from it. He tilted his head. You got any real friends here? Nope. You want one? She looked at him sideways. Not if you're going to follow me around all the time, she said. He grinned. Deal. They didn't speak for a while after that, but they didn't need to. That night, Thea Hudgens was chopping onions when she heard the front door close. Lexi walked in and went straight for the fridge again. Thea didn't turn, just kept slicing. You been quiet. Lexi shrugged. When I said keep your head down, I didn't mean bury it underground. Lexi leaned on the counter. It's not buried. Thea finally turned to face her. I got a call from the school today. Didn't leave a message, but you want to tell me why they're calling? Lexi blinked. I didn't start it. But you ended it? Lexi didn't answer. Thea sighed, setting the knife down. Lex, I moved us here so you could breathe, not so you'd have to fight just to eat lunch. I didn't fight for lunch, I fought so they'd stop. Thea stared at her daughter. You're not in trouble, she said after a beat. I'm just tired of seeing that weight on you. Lexi exhaled. So did Thea. All right, Thea said. Dinner in 20. Go wash up. Lexi turned to go but stopped in the hallway. You think it's going to be like this everywhere? Thea looked at her. I think people don't change as fast as we want. But you don't have to change for them. Lexi nodded once, then disappeared down the hall. And in the kitchen, Thea closed her eyes and prayed, quietly, that this town would be different, even if it had already started to prove otherwise. By Wednesday, Jason Cutter was back. He didn't show up with bruises, but something in his posture was different. His usual smirk had a crack in it. He still walked like he owned the school, but his shoulders were stiffer, like the weight of being embarrassed in front of half the student body was dragging behind him with every step. Lexi didn't flinch when she saw him at his locker. But she noticed the change. So did everyone else. Nobody said anything outright, but the hallway atmosphere had shifted again, like static building up before a storm. It wasn't over, just quieter. A slow boil. Jason spotted her from across the hall and gave a look that didn't quite land. His confidence wasn't gone, it was just confused. He didn't know what to do with a girl who didn't fall in line, didn't cry, didn't beg. He'd lost control, and worse, people saw him lose it. Lexi turned away first. Not because she was afraid, but because she'd already won that round. In the cafeteria, Deshawn waved her over to the table in the back corner where he usually sat alone with a sketchbook and a mountain of fries. She paused for a second, then walked over, tray in hand. You cool with people thinking we're besties now? She asked, setting her tray down. Long as you don't start stealing my fries, he said. No promises. They sat in easy silence for a few moments. The buzz of the lunchroom filled the background. Trays clattering, someone arguing about basketball 3 tables over, girls giggling in that way that meant they were plotting something. You hear what happened to Matt? Deshawn asked between bites. Walks suspended. Told admin he had nothing to do with the fight but slipped up about where it happened. Lexi raised an eyebrow. Thought no one saw. They didn't. But he panicked, said the wrong thing. Lexi leaned back. So they're still trying to figure out what happened? Pretty much. Admin's suspicious, but no one's talking. Rico's still out. Jason ain't said a word. He won't, Lexi said. Deshawn looked at her. She said it like she knew it was a fact, like she had him figured out to the core. I think you got in his head, Deshawn said. I didn't mean to. Yeah, you did. They both grinned. But it didn't last. Because 30 seconds later, Megan Saunders sat down across from them. Lexi's eyes narrowed instantly, and Deshawn stopped chewing. Can I sit? Megan asked. You already did, Lexi replied flatly. Megan opened her juice carton slowly. Her hands were steady, but her jaw was tight. Look, she said. I didn't know they were going to go that far. When they said they were going to mess with you, I thought it'd be like jokes, words, not like that. Lexi stared at her. And you're saying this now because? Because it's wrong. It was wrong before they got hit. Megan flinched at that. I know, she said. Lexi leaned in just slightly. So what now? You feel bad? You want a sticker? Or you want me to clap because you decided to grow a conscience after the bruises showed up? Deshawn gave a small cough, trying not to look directly at either of them. Megan blinked. Her eyes were shiny, but she wasn't crying. Not yet. I'm trying to do the right thing now. Cool, Lexi said. Do it over there. Megan stood slowly, picking up her tray. She hesitated like she wanted to say something else, but didn't. She walked away without looking back. Deshawn exhaled. Damn. Lexi didn't say anything for a long moment. Then she took one of his fries. She still didn't apologize. She muttered, "Nope. She's not sorry, she's just scared." "Probably," he said, watching her eat, "but that's something." The next day, Lexi got called to the office. The voice over the intercom was polite but sharp. "Lexi Hudgens, please report to the main office." Deshawn raised an eyebrow across the classroom. Lexi slid her notebook into her bag and stood without a word. In the office, she sat across from Principal Alvarez, a woman in her early 40s with a tired face and posture like a stack of bricks. Next to her sat Mr. Rios, the school counselor, with his usual calm demeanor and those soft eyes that made him look like he was always mid-prayer. "Lexi," Principal Alvarez began, "we've received some concerns." Lexi stayed quiet. "We've had some conflicting accounts of an incident behind the gym. Several students reported noise. A few saw people running. We've spoken to Jason Cutta and his friends. One of them is currently suspended. The others—" "I didn't start it," Lexi said. Alvarez looked at her. "No one's accusing you." Mr. Rios cleared his throat gently. "Lexi," he said, "this isn't about blame, it's about clarity. You've been here a few weeks. We want to make sure you're okay and that you're not being targeted." Lexi almost laughed. But she didn't. She knew the tone. It was the kind people used when they didn't want trouble but also didn't want truth. "I defended myself," she said. That's it." Alvarez tapped her pen against the desk. "Did you file a report?" "No. We not? Because nothing would have happened." Rios leaned forward. "You feel like no one would have believed you?" Lexi didn't answer. Alvarez sighed. "I want you to understand something. We're trying to build a community here. We don't want students afraid to come forward." "I'm not afraid," Lexi said. "Then help us understand what happened." "I told you I defended myself." There was a pause. Thick. Uncomfortable. Alvarez finally said, "We'll be in touch." Lexi stood and walked out. Rios watched her all the way to the door, his lips parted like he wanted to say something else. But he didn't. Outside the building, Lexi found Megan sitting on the low brick wall near the school's front entrance, alone, no crowd, no phone. Lexi almost walked past her. But Megan looked up. "I didn't say anything," she said. Lexi paused. "They asked if I knew anything. I told them I didn't." "Because you didn't deserve what they did." Lexi studied her for a second. "You could have lied, said I hit them first." Megan nodded. "I thought about it." Lexi's jaw tightened. "But you didn't." "No." "Because," Megan said softly, "you scared him." Lexi blinked. "You scared Jason. That's never happened before. And I think he needs to be scared." For a moment the air between them was still. Then Lexi asked, "You ever get tired of pretending?" "All the time." They didn't say anything else. Lexi walked off, and Megan didn't try to follow. That night, Lexi sat on the floor of her bedroom, knees pulled to her chest. The house was quiet. Thea had already gone to bed after another long shift. The TV was off, her phone was on silent. The only light came from the moon cutting through the slats of her blinds. She stared at the scar on her knuckle. Faded. Old. From a fight she barely remembered. One of many. But this town was different. Back then she fought because she had to survive. Now she fought so no one else had to. She picked up her notebook and flipped past the pages of unfinished homework. Near the back, she found a blank sheet. She wrote just 2 words. "Not done." Then she closed the book and finally let herself sleep. The auditorium filled slowly, one rustling backpack and pair of squeaky sneakers at a time. Teachers stood near the doors, arms folded, whispering to one another. Kids filed in like it was any other mandatory school assembly. Some groaning, some yawning, most scrolling their phones while trying to find their friends. Lexi sat in the middle row, legs crossed, hoodie pulled halfway over her head. She didn't want to be here, not really, but Mr. Rios had asked. He didn't tell her what it was about, only said, "Come, just be there." That's all. Next to her, Deshawn leaned back with his arms crossed behind his head. "You think this is about the fight?" Lexi shrugged. "Feels weird. Whole school called in last period. Something's up." Still, she said nothing, until the principal's voice came over the mic. "Good afternoon, everyone. Please take your seats." The lights dimmed slightly. A hush rolled over the crowd. Principal Alvarez stood at the podium on stage, expression unreadable but firm. She adjusted the mic. "I won't keep you long," she began. "But what I have to say matters more than whatever you had planned for your last period." A few students chuckled under their breath. She continued, "We are a school, a place for learning, but before that we are a community, and lately that community has been tested." Lexi felt her stomach knot. "This past week, a student was physically confronted by others on school grounds," Alvarez said, carefully choosing her words. "Though few people witnessed what happened, the aftermath revealed something deeper. A culture we cannot ignore. A culture of silence, of intimidation, and of judgment." The room grew heavier. No one was laughing anymore. "I've had conversations with students. I've heard what's been said. And more importantly, I've seen what wasn't. What we allow, what we excuse, that defines us just as much as our rules." She paused, then gestured toward the wing of the stage. "Today I invited someone to speak. Someone whose voice we all need to hear. Not because she asked to, but because she didn't." Lexi blinked. "Wait, what?" Alvarez looked out at the crowd. "Lexi Hudgens, will you come up, please?" Deshawn's head snapped to her. "Yo. What?" Lexi froze. She hadn't agreed to this. Rios never said. The entire auditorium was staring at her now. Whispers bubbled up like steam. But Lexi stood. She didn't rush, didn't smile, just walked, slow and steady, down the aisle and up the steps of the stage, each footstep feeling like a drumbeat inside her chest. Alvarez stepped aside. Lexi stared at the mic for a second, then stepped up. It was quiet. Too quiet. Lexi cleared her throat. "I didn't want to say anything," she started, voice calm but clear. "And I still don't." A few kids laughed nervously. She kept going. "Most of y'all didn't notice me before last week. Some of you still don't. That's fine. I didn't come here to be noticed." She paused. "But I'm here now." In the third row, Jason Cutter sat stiff in his seat, arms crossed, eyes locked on her. She saw him. Saw Rico next to him, head down. Saw Megan in the row behind them, shoulders tense. "I'm not here to start anything," Lexi continued. "I didn't fight because I wanted to. I fought because I was tired." Silence. Tired of being stared at like I don't belong. Tired of people acting like I was a threat just for being quiet. Tired of people thinking silence means weak. Lexi's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. "I didn't hurt anyone who didn't come for me first, but when they did, I didn't run, and I won't apologize for that." More silence. Even the teachers were still now. "But this ain't just about me." Lexi looked out across the sea of students. Different colors, different sizes. Some looking at her, some not. "It's about everyone who gets talked about before they get talked to, everyone who gets labeled before they even open their mouth, everyone who keeps their head down just so they can make it to last period without being a story." She breathed. "I'm not the first person they've come for. I'm just the first one who hit back." No one moved. "I didn't come here to make friends. But I'm not your enemy." Lexi stepped back. That was it. No applause, no music, just silence. Then someone clapped. Slow, once, twice. It was Megan. Then Deshawn stood and clapped. And then, like dominoes, others followed. A ripple of sound rolled through the auditorium, not loud, not forced, just enough. Lexi didn't smile, but her eyes shifted, just slightly. Principal Alvarez returned to the mic. "Thank you, Lexi. That's all." As Lexi stepped off the stage, Rio stood waiting at the side. He didn't say anything, but he gave her a nod. A real one. She nodded back. The next day, Jason didn't look at her when they passed in the hallway. He didn't speak. Neither did Rico. But they didn't laugh, didn't whisper. They just kept moving. And that was enough. Megan caught up with Lexi at lunch. She didn't sit down right away. "Hey," she said. Lexi looked up. "I meant what I said yesterday." Lexi gave her a long, quiet look. "All right," she said, "then sit." Megan sat. And just like that, the table got a little more crowded. Later, Deshawn pulled out his sketchbook and turned it toward her. It was a rough pencil drawing. A girl standing on a stage, hood halfway up, arms loose at her sides, face calm. Around her, shadows, fuzzy, uncertain. But the spotlight? Bright. Bold. Lexi blinked at it. Then she smirked. "My nose ain't that big." Deshawn grinned. "You're welcome." That evening the sun dipped below the rooftops, and Thea Hudgens came home to a house that didn't feel so heavy. Lexi sat at the table doing homework. Actual homework. "How was school?" Thea asked, dropping her keys in the bowl by the door. Lexi didn't look up. "It was different. Good different or bad different?" Lexi smiled, just a little. "Good." Thea raised an eyebrow. "You sure?" Lexi nodded. "I spoke today." Thea looked confused. "Spoke where?" "At the assembly." "Yeah." Thea laughed lightly, half in disbelief. "Wow. What'd you say?" Lexi looked up. "Just told them who I was." Thea paused in the hallway, one hand on the doorframe. She didn't say anything at first. Then, "Well, I hope they listened." Lexi smiled wider. They did. And for the first time in a long time, the quiet in their house didn't feel like hiding. It felt like peace.